You know Gray Bar for electrical parts, but there's one more thing you may not be thinking of us for that can help maximize your next project's total value. Our pre-project planning services are designed to help you win the bid, save on labor costs, and keep your installers productive across your entire build. The sooner you call us, the better. Because when we're there from the beginning, we can anticipate your needs and help you solve problems before they become problems. Yep, Gray Bar does that.
Hello and welcome into this week's episode of the Show Before the Show podcast, the official podcast of minor league baseball. We are back. The trio has been reunited here for episode number 8 trillion, whatever this is. My name is Tyler Braun. We are, we're 2 different time zones today. I think 3. Yeah, that's the fall back. Have we done the fall back? No, we did the spring ahead. We haven't done the fall back. The spring ahead puts it. No, we should be on 2. Sam, what time? Anyway, Sam Dykstra's in Arizona. Aren't you on Mountain Time right now?
No, it is 8:42 in the morning. 8:47, excuse me. 8:47 in the morning here in Arizona. You're looking at me as if like I haven't been here for a week and a half. Living.
Yeah, I know,
on
but how does that
Pacific
make any sense? Because they bounce back and forth between one and the other. I don't know. I'm jet lagged.
When Mountain Time falls back, it's going to fall back to where Arizona
right.
is,
We fall
Pacific
back and they don't. That's right. I remember being at the AFL and at spring training, like in multiple years where it happened both times, where like I'd be at spring training and everybody else sprang ahead and Arizona didn't, and then I'd be at the fall league and everybody else fell back and Arizona didn't. And it was kind of nice, except for trying to figure out what time it was everywhere else. Daylight savings time is very stupid. None of us should have to do it. And that's how we welcome you into this week's episode of the Show Before the Show podcast. 2 fellows, at least in the western expanse of the United States. Myself, Tyler Mon, Sam Dykstra, in Arizona, covering the Arizona Fall League. Benjamin Hill in New York City at MLB HQ. Ben, what's going on? How are you?
Doing all right. Hanging out here in New York City all by myself. I mean, there's a lot of other people in New York City. I'm not all by myself in New York City, but I'm all by myself in this room and all by myself with my thoughts and feelings and just working through that.
I won't do it. It's good to be back with you guys. It's I was away last week. I was traveling through one of the homelands of Samuel C. Dykstra, and it was incredible. I was in Scotland with my in-laws. I also learned on this trip that my mother-in-law listens to the Show Before the Show podcast. So you two need to be on your best behavior going forward. Hi, Kay. And that was exciting news. But pretty great stuff. My last morning in Scotland, I had an MILB connection. A guy walked by in the breakfast room wearing a Hillsborough Hops hat. And I was like, Hops hat? I didn't expect to see that in Edinburgh. And it was definitely early enough that he was like, wow, what? Huh? What are you talking about? But it was awesome, but nothing is as awesome as being back with you guys as we roll into this week's episode of the Show Before the Show. And for all of you tuned in, you can, of course, get in touch with us, podcast at MILB.com, as we are into really sort of the quietest period of at least the minor league world. On the field, there is stuff going on in the Arizona Fall League that we'll talk about, of course, with Sam Dykstra, but the baseball world is honed in right now on the World Series. The Toronto Blue Jays and the Los Angeles Dodgers set to get started on Friday night in Toronto, and thrilled for that. That is going to be a really fun series. We have a Blue Jays connected interview coming up here in a little bit. But before we get to all of that stuff, it's sort of a quiet period in the off the field stuff. And this week's edition of Ben's Biz Banter, as always, is presented to you by Circle K, the official convenience store of minor league baseball. And Ben, we have some unique news from a team that left the affiliated minor league ranks and is returning to the affiliated minor league ranks in 2026. The Frederick Keys, big welcome back. We're the Frederick Keys to the Frederick Keys. And Harry Grove Stadium will once more host affiliated ball, I believe with new naming rights also. But a new look for the Frederick Keys. It's kind of a unique thing. The Keys out of the affiliated game, now back in, rejoining from the MLB Draft League.
Yeah, the Frederick Keys, shake your keys. And for those who might need a refresher, that team is named after Francis Scott Key, who is buried like across the street from the ballpark. I visited that ballpark one time, and his grave is very close to the ballpark. So I forget the specifics of the history, but he definitely spent at least part of his life there in Frederick, Maryland, or what is now Frederick, Maryland. I don't know all the timeline, but they are named after the man who wrote the national anthem, the Frederick Keys. And yeah, Tyler, as you mentioned, they were in affiliated ball for a lot of years, and then prior to the 21 season, they were one of the teams that were removed from the affiliated landscape. They joined the MLB Draft League, and they played in the MLB Draft League in 21, 22, 23, and 24 and 25. That season's done too. So they played 5 seasons in the draft league, and now they are swapping with the Aberdeen Ironbirds, going back to affiliated ball to once again resume their status as a Baltimore Orioles affiliate, high A affiliate. And the Aberdeen Ironbirds are going to be going into the draft league. And both those teams have the same ownership group, so it was a fairly simple process in that regard. So pretty cool to see Frederick coming back and tied in with that. This was just news. We're talking here on Thursday. They dropped a refreshed logo, so you can head to their website to check it out. I'm not sure if I'll be writing something about this. It's pretty modest, just a refresh. They're obviously still the Frederick Keys. They got the same basic look. And the team says with this refresh, they are proudly paying homage to the Orioles' iconic wardmark and the team's signature orange and black color palette. And you'll notice in the primary logo now, there is a literal pair of keys hanging from the word mark. The S continues with a line underneath it, underlying the entirety of the word keys. And a set of keys is dangling from that part of the logo. So really leaning into the literal keys, although Francis Scott Key, I bet that guy had keys as well. Um, I'd like to check those out one day. Francis Scott Keys. And so it's a refreshed look. Another aspect they have a logo for. I almost want to call them Coyote, like you were saying before we started recording, Tyler. But their mascot Coyote,
Coyote.
Coyote, not Quixote either. Coyote, as in a coyote, but he's a Coyote. They got a mascot for that as well. Um, yeah, there's not too much to say about it, I don't think. I feel like I should be have more to say about it, but I think the big story here is just a refresh in conjunction with a return to affiliated ball in Frederick. So, of course, I'm a little ways out from making my 2026 road trip schedules, but I hope to make it back to Harry Grove Stadium. I believe, Tyler, you're correct. It is now, what was it, Nimio Field at Harry Grove Stadium, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, new look or a new name. The thing I like about this new keys word mark, if you look at the keys themselves that Ben mentioned, the keys are a letter F turned upside down, and the new hat letter, I would assume, has a key sort of across the. What do you call that on an F? Like the second line down, the crossbar? I don't know what that would be called, but I like that. I like that as well. It's yeah, more of a refresh than it is any sort of big grand redesign, but they did a really nice job with it.
Yeah, and just a question for you both, because Tyler, you've spent some time there, and Ben, you've been there and been covering Frederick for as long as anybody. I'm a little surprised. Like when I heard refresh, I thought they would be leaning more into the Francis Scott Key of it all, than not the literal key. But like, how much of this, the fact that they are leaning into that, has to do with that song you mentioned before, "Shake Your Keys"? Like they have very much been like, this is part of our identity. It's just it may have started this way, but it's gone this way, and now we're just leaning into the fact that we are literally called the Keys, which is not like the fighting Keys isn't something you would think of, but it's been there for so long, you might as well lean into it.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised. Like, yeah, the press release, I don't believe even has a mention of Francis Scott Key. That's obviously the backstory, but um, not tying their branding currently into specifically Francis Scott Key or the national anthem itself. But the Keys have taken on a life of their own. So
Yeah,
they've
they
now
do. They do lean into the shake your key. That's sort of like the rally thing. I think they do that after take me out to the ball game. And in the seventh inning, they do the shake your keys thing. And I like it. It's talk about unique. That's I think they did a very nice job with it. And I like that it's like an old, if you're thinking about the colonial era or the revolution or that era, the keys are very much that look, which I think is cool. And I like it. I think they did a very good job. Their previous logo was sort of, I don't know, kind of random. It was an F with a starburst sort of look behind it. I'm looking at it right now on my hat wall. It was fine, but I think they did a really good job with this. This is cool.
Yeah, I will say, like, for my questions of should they have a Star Spangled Banner behind the logo set or something like that, which is more or less what I was getting at. I do like that it may have started out as an homage to Francis Scott Key, but now it's just turned into, hey, we're the Keys. We know what you're thinking of. Here's a Key logo. Where else are you going to find that? Like, no other team is going to rush out. It's not the Panthers. It's not the Cougars. It's not a name you're going to find it in teams across America. Like, lean into what makes you special. I appreciate that they are doing that. I just want to say that for the record.
Yeah, but to really lean into that, and I've never seen the Frederick Keys do this, you need to make a key anthropomorphic. And I've seen no anthropomorphic key yet in the Frederick Keys universe, or like a literal key mascot, a walking key. So if they want to go further on this, they certainly have room to.
They also do have that famous song, which if you want to dig way back in the archives, you can find the episode in which Ben and I played pretty much every unique minor league baseball team song that we could find. And my favorite thing about the Frederick Keys song, two of them, as long pointed out to me by the longtime radio voice of the Frederick Keys, Adam Pohl, they refer to the ballpark as Harry Grove Memorial Stadium, which is not the name of the ballpark. It never was. It's just Harry Grove Stadium. And they also refer to parking one in the bleachers. And there are no bleachers in the outfield, so if you park one in the bleachers, that is a foul ball. But anyway, new look for the Frederick Keys. Very cool stuff there. And the Keys will be back in affiliated ball in 2026 with not a new ballpark, but a very much redone ballpark. But we're putting the bow on 2025. And Ben, we welcomed 5 new parks to the fold in 2025 that already have their first full season behind them.
Yeah, well, it was 4 in 2024, 4 in 2025, 5 in 2026. This time of year, I forget like what year it is, what year we're talking about, what next year will be. So on my newsletter, The Baseball Traveler, and in a corresponding article on MILB.com that'll be running Friday, the day this podcast comes out, I have a comprehensive report on the ballpark at America First Square, the new home of the Salt Lake City Bees, but it's actually located in West Jordan, Utah. And we still got some videos coming out. I'll still have more, associated content as the offseason progresses. I still got stuff to share. But that kind of finishes my main body of work as regards documenting my visits to all 4 new minor league ballparks in the year 2025. And those were, of course, new ballparks in Columbus, Georgia, in Spartanburg, South Carolina, in Knoxville, Tennessee, and in Salt Lake City, Utah. So nice that I've gotten my comprehensive write-ups of all those locations out there. And we're heading into even more new ballparks in 2026. I know we've mentioned it before, but let's just do a quick rundown to refresh everyone now that we're officially in the offseason. 5 new ballparks in the year 2026, which is quite a lot. And of course, that doesn't include, the Frederick Keys coming back into the fold. So they're kind of sort of new, kind of sort of old, but 5 brand new ones. I've got them all up here in front of me. I found last year with even 4 new ballparks, I could never seem to remember all 4 at the same time. Can you guys off the top of your heads name all 5 in 2026?
Richmond,
Virginia, replacing the Diamond. There's a new ballpark right across the street, CarMax Park. That is one of them. So we'll have a new home of the AA Richmond Flying Squirrels, a San Francisco Giants affiliate.
Wilson.
Yep, we've talked about that quite a bit on this podcast. Wilson, North Carolina, where the Carolina Mudcats have relocated that ballpark. I visited it when it was under construction this summer, and it's looks to be, as far as I can tell, ahead of schedule. And we'll have an on-site hotel down the third baseline, which I'm interested to check out and hopefully even stay in. So that is two. I don't believe that one has a name yet, or probably will get a corporate sponsor name, but I'm not sure. But Wilson, North Carolina, that's two. Richmond, Wilson.
Ontario.
Ontario.
Yep.
Jinx.
Jinx.
Ontario, California. The Modesto Nuts are out of the California League, and the Ontario Tower Buzzers are in. We talked about the Tower Buzzers, a Top Gun reference. Couple, what was that, last month on the podcast, and I have a story about that. But there'll be a new ballpark in Ontario, California. That's called ONT Field, which is the Ontario Airport's, 3-letter identification code, and the Ontario Airport is a huge part of that city's economy, being so close to Los Angeles or in the greater Los Angeles region. So that is three.
Chattanooga.
Chattanooga is four. This is going to be called Erlanger Park. It's a corporate naming rights deal. Erlanger Health. That will replace AT&T Field. It is going to be what is the neighborhood in Chattanooga? It will serve as Chattanooga's iconic Western Gateway with multiple access points along the Tennessee River Walk. And looking forward to seeing that. And not sure what the future status of AT&T, the Lookout's previous home, is. And Chattanooga is also home to Engle Stadium, a classical ballpark, which has fallen into disrepair. But there's, as far as I know, with this new one, 3 minor league ballparks standing in Chattanooga, all in various states of repair. But that's it. And then the fifth,
Hillsboro.
there you go. You got it. I think
Nicely
this is
done,
kind of
Tyler.
Ties it all together.
Yeah, this is kind of the strangest one in that what is now just called Hillsboro Ballpark. It was Ron Tonkin Field. That opened in 2012 after the Hillsboro Hops, relocated to Hillsboro. They had been previously the Yakima Bears, but that ballpark was built in a different era of minor league baseball and for a short season team. The Hops were, of course, short season in the Northwest League up through 2020. And so now with more games and a lot different, they have to host more games, and there's, more stringent minor league baseball, facility standards that weren't at that previous ballpark. More locker rooms, the size of player facilities and batting cages and practice areas and weight rooms and all those things. It was ultimately decided that a new ballpark would be a better way to go than trying to renovate the old one. So they're basically located next door to each other in part of a larger athletic complex. The old ballpark will still be run by the city, and I'm sure they'll find uses for that going forward. But there'll be a new, really much bigger deal of a ballpark than the previous one in terms of its size and amenities there for the Hillsboro Hops. So, yep, we got 5 of them. And, I forgot. I got an affiliated note. Well, actually not affiliated in the sense of affiliated with a major league team. Where did it go? I just had it up. I lost the link. But the Ontario Tower Buzzers, as we mentioned, they're replacing the Modesto Nuts in the California League as a larger series of affiliation shifts. But Modesto and its longtime minor league ballpark, John Thurman Field, will continue to host baseball in the form of a Pioneer League team starting next year, and they just announced their name the team finalists in Modesto. So there's going to be a vote on it right now that begins now and goes through November 7th. Go to modestobaseballclub.com to vote for one of the following team names for the new Modesto team in the Pioneer League, the Independent Pioneer League. It's the Modesto Bombers, Glow Riders, Graffiti, Harvesters, Monster Trucks, or 99ers. Graffiti is, of course, a reference to American Graffiti. George Lucas grew up in Modesto, around Modesto, and was super into classic cars. And his first, breakout feature-length film prior to Star Wars was American Graffiti. So American Graffiti is definitely a reference to that. The other ones we're going to have to look into. I don't know exactly what the connection to Modesto is with Bombers, Glow Riders. I mean, Glow Riders is kind of like a low rider. I don't know. Harvesters. I mean, I assume that would reference that's a huge agricultural area, which of course inspired the previous team name of Nuts. Monster Trucks and 99ers. Maybe the city was established in 1899. I don't know, but be curious to see what that new team name is. And this just came out today, or I just saw it today. But we'll look into this and keep you updated.
I like
I
graffiti
like
a lot,
those.
I got to say.
Those are good. Those are good
Yeah.
names.
Graffiti has a real potential.
Graffiti is really cool. That's not I would not have thought action with Modesto, but I like that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you could tie in cars to that branding, but also graffiti itself could make for an interesting, word mark, jerseys, caps, ballpark atmosphere. So I do like that as well. I mean, monster trucks. I have a 4.5-year-old son, so I'm like, that's pretty cool. A team named the Monster Trucks, but seems a little strange for a baseball team. Not that strangeness has stopped teams before. Um, so yeah, we'll see. You guys are voting for graffiti. You guys are logging into ModestoBaseballClub.com right now and voting for graffiti.
Yeah,
That's how I would go.
it's close.
Yeah.
That's close. I like Bombers. Depending on what the storyline is. One of my favorite minor league baseball logos and identities of all time was the Capital City Bombers, which of course were in Columbia, South Carolina. But a very cool logo and look, and that might have been the first non-hometown minor league baseball team that I owned, hat that I owned. I like that. I like Harvesters, but that's probably because I own an International Scout, which is International Harvester was the name of that company. But graffiti is just so unique and a cool connection. And yeah, I think I might lean graffiti.
Yeah, I could see that being one that sells kind of in a similar way to the Lake Elsinore Storm. Like people will just buy the hat without quite knowing the team yet, and then they get introduced to the team, and it takes on a national brand. And you could get some real Lucas heads. I mean, they exist out there. There are people who are big into Lucasfilm and Star Wars and just the George Lucas oeuvre. Maybe some cinephiles buy some gear too. So I think that's the one that has the most potential. I do like the vision of the Harvesters, and I always liked how Nuts was in honor of, like you were saying, Ben, the agricultural area around Modesto. So I think that certainly has some potential there too. But I think if I were to log on right now and vote myself, it would be for graffiti.
Well, stay tuned. New team coming in Modesto, and of course, I'm happy. I'm sure we're all happy about that. That baseball is continuing at a, you know, fairly comparable level to what it had been in the California League and the Independent Pioneer League and Partner League, Pioneer League, and we'll see what happens.
Good stuff, as always, from Benjamin Hill. This week's episode of Ben's Biz Banter, as always, presented by Circle K, the official convenience store of minor league baseball. And Ben's going to rejoin us for Name That Dude coming up a little while later on. But good stuff, as always. Thanks, Ben.
Hey, thanks, guys. You made me feel less alone.
ABC's David Muir, the most trusted anchor in America, the most watched anchor in America. Thank you for making World News Tonight with David Muir the #1 newscast in America. Most trusted, most watched. David Muir on ABC.
We're recording this on Thursday morning, Mountain/Pacific time, and we are 33 hours, 32, 31 hours away from first pitch of the 2025 World Series as the Los Angeles Dodgers, the reigning World Series champions, will take on the Toronto Blue Jays, who are in search of their first World Series title in over 30 years. And Sam, this is exciting. I think people have probably learned over the last several years, and I've said it on the show. I've got such a soft spot for the Seattle Mariners. I was crushed to see the way that they lost the ALCS, but gosh, man, what an amazing series. If there is another equally lovable team to be going to the World Series, I think the Toronto Blue Jays fill that bill. Incredible in the American League. The National League, not really the way I think most people saw the NLCS going. The Milwaukee Brewers were 6-0 against Los Angeles Dodgers in 2025. Didn't win a single game in the NLCS. They got swept. This is one of those sports random things, but evidently teams that win 7-game LCSs are unbeaten against teams coming off of LCS sweeps in World Series history. Of course, one of those was the matchup of Sam Dykstra and Tyler Mond's baseball teams back in 2007, long before we knew each other. But I guess it's sort of not a cherry picked stat, I guess, but it's a small sample size stat. Maybe if you're a Jays fan, that bodes well for you. But obviously, there is a behemoth headed north of the border in the Los Angeles Dodgers. So many interesting storylines in this matchup with Shohei Ohtani now going to Toronto. Of course, he was rumored to be potentially signing with the Jays a couple of years ago. Didn't happen. Vlad Guerrero Jr. has led the Jays to this stage. The emotion that he was overcome with over the last couple of days of the American League Championship Series. This has been such a good postseason. Such a good postseason. And now we are getting such a good matchup for the World Series, Sam.
Yeah, no, it really is. I mean, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., those reactions that he had, it seems like every step of the way, right? Like him getting the Jays to the postseason, him getting the Jays to the ALCS, him getting that one of like the tracking shot of him, of just the emotions of himself.
That was whoever the crew, the camera guy, the producer, incredible work. Hazel May,
incredible work by Hazel May too.
Yeah,
right,
exactly.
Like to get that out of Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Just in great stuff north of the border, feeding what I think has been one of the best postseasons, maybe of our lifetime. Really, like just in terms of every series having dramatic moments. We haven't talked about it on the show, honestly, because this is a minor league podcast. But Shohei Ohtani putting his stamp on the GOAT conversation, and I hate having that in some ways because I think that's something like that gets reserved for the NBA and everybody like brings up pitchforks, and I don't mean it that way. I mean it purely celebratory. That Shohei Ohtani hitting 3 homers, pitching scoreless innings in the same game, listening to that game 10. On radio. Yeah, listening to that game on radio for a bit, listening to Steven Nelson, who we both are big fans of, on the Dodgers radio call. And hearing him say like, oh man, this is just dominance on a different level. And Ohtani comes up a third time after having come out of the game, which credit to the Dodgers, by the way, for playing Jesus Christ Superstar as he was walking off the mound. Oh, it's so good. But because of that rule, right? The Ohtani rule that if you are the starting pitcher and you are hitting in that game under the DH, you can remain as the DH. They do that for Shohei Ohtani, buys him a third opportunity to hit a homer, and he does it. And you just, even through the radio, you could feel just the astonishment of everybody being like, I can't believe this is happening. Like you could hear it in the crowd, the reaction shots from the Dodgers dugout. The man is the best baseball player we're ever going to see, honestly, just in terms of being the complete package. And when I look at this series, I think he almost single-handedly overshadows what has been a terrific Dodgers rotation. The reason why a lot of people, myself included, I'll be completely honest with you, I don't think I put this anywhere on the internet, but I was thinking about it for a long time. My World Series pick was the Phillies versus the Mariners. Obviously, we got very close to one half of that. And I think the Phillies have a legit claim to be the second best team in the postseason.
Yeah.
After what they did against the Dodgers compared to the Brewers. But I didn't think the Dodgers bullpen was going to work. Obviously, coming into this postseason, Roki Sasaki was still a question mark. The velocity was taken back up late.
How about when are the conspiracy theories going to start that the Dodgers just had Roki Sasaki tank the entire 2025 regular season, and they were like, oh, he's still Roki Sasaki, and now he's going to close out every postseason game for us. I'm not a conspiracy theory guy, but like, oh, as if anything else needed to come up Millhouse for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Now it's like Roki Sasaki has been Roki Sasaki all along.
Well, he hasn't been Roki Sasaki all along, though. Like, he has dealt with injuries.
What if it was an act, Sam? Is what I'm saying.
If it was an act,
no,
you
I'm
use
kidding.
him as
I know
a
it wasn't
starter.
an act, but people are gonna talk. People are gonna talk.
Yeah, because you're starting. People are talking. You are talking, Tyler.
Many are saying, Sam.
Many are saying, yeah. You and your clones. But no, getting Roki, but like, it's gotten to a point where all they really need is Roki Sasaki out of the bullpen when you have Blake Snell pitching 8 innings, when you've got Yoshinobu Yamamoto looking like an all-world ace, Tyler Glass now being a number 4 starter. What?
Which is also kind of awesome. You know what I mean? Like, to be back at the stage where you're looking at a pitching staff that's like, hey, you only need to hand this ball off to one or two guys. That for so long, that was baseball in the postseason. And
Yeah.
now we're in an era where you're trying to get your starters. And it is interesting, like watching the conversation on, especially on the Fox post-game coverage, where Alex Rodriguez and David Ortiz and Derek Jeter have been talking about, you take these guys through an entirety of the season. You save the bullets in those arms for starting pitchers for the postseason. Why are you not content to ride those guys longer in the playoffs? And obviously, there's a whole lot of wisdom of, well, later in the year, arms are going to be more fatigued. You don't want guys getting injured, blah, blah, blah. But it is kind of cool to see that there are teams right now who have had this luxury in the postseason. We've seen the Mariners have had that at times. The Blue Jays have had that at times, where you do have a starter who can give you 7, and then you only need an arm or two out of the bullpen to finish things off. I think it's kind of a cool pendulum swing back toward what we used to see. I don't think it's, necessarily, well, now we're going to go back to looking at starters for 6 and 7 all the time, but it is sort of a cool throwback thing.
Yeah, you have to have the arms to do that. And to the Dodgers' credit, they went out and got Blake Snell, right? They went out and got Yamamoto. They went out. Tyler Glasnow was not developed in their organization. Ohtani, again, they were the ones who were willing to go to $700 million, deferrals aside. So they built this rotation to do this, and it is hitting at the exact right moment. And I think that's what's going to end up giving the Dodgers the advantage here. Because, yes, I like Kevin Gausman. I really like what Trey Savage has been doing this postseason. And I'll throw in once more just I'll push my story on Trey Savage being built level by level in the minor leagues this year, and getting quotes from Connor Griffin, who saw him at single A, and Gage Stanifer, who was his piggyback. Like, everybody saw, like, this is a guy who could be really, really good. And now we are seeing it on the biggest stage. So the Blue Jays could do it. And you have, like, George Springer, arguably the greatest postseason hitter of all time. I think he's 5th all time in postseason homers. I don't think he's going to end his career at the 5th place position. We'll put it that way. But Vladdy being Vladdy, like slugging 900. Bo Bichette potentially coming back as we sit here now. Sounds like he's doing some infield work. The timing might just work out there before he hits free agency. Ernie Clement being a breakout guy. But we haven't even mentioned the name Mookie Betts. We haven't mentioned the name Freddie Freeman. We haven't mentioned the name Max Muncy, Will Smith. Like, some of these are the best hitters who have postseason experience. And if the Dodgers can cobble together, a couple wins from Snell and Yamamoto and Ohtani, and, like, even if Glasnow doesn't quite live up to expectations, you get those other 3 guys a second time, I think that's going to be really difficult for the Blue Jays to overcome, as much as they will be riding that crowd, and it'll be a really fun crowd in game 1. My pick is Dodgers in 6, and I'm a little sad to do that because a Blue Jays win would be super fun, their first since 1993. But I just think that the Dodgers are hitting on all cylinders at the exact right time.
I'm riding with the Jays, man. I'm taking the Jays. I think it might go 7, but this is what I will say. The Jays dropped the first 2 games at home to the Mariners and then proceeded to win 4 of the next 5, including 2 out of 3 in maybe the most difficult environment of baseball. Now, at home, they get a similar environment at their backs. Didn't help in games 1 and 2 against the Mariners, but I think that can work in one of 2 ways. If they ride that crowd and they get out to a 1-game-to-none lead, maybe a 2-game-to-none lead, you snag the first 2 at home. Then you go to Los Angeles and you need to win 2 out of the next 5. I like those odds. The Jays have built something over the last week in taking 4 out of 5 from Seattle after those first 2 games, where I think they are just rolling with something really deep right now. Obviously, you just compare rosters, you compare talent. I think the Dodgers blow this series out of the water. But postseason matchups are not just built on that. And I don't know, there's something going with this Jays team. And the thing that I like most about a matchup like this is that we get to watch really, really good baseball. This isn't one of those World Series where it feels like, oh, okay, yeah, that team's in it. They backdoored their way in, or they got hot at the right time, or they're the 2007 Rockies. There is an argument to be made here that this is the most exciting World Series matchup that we have had in a long time. Although we would have made that argument last year, and that World Series was a dud between the Yankees and Dodgers because one of those teams didn't really show up.
The Yankees had their problems, but like I won't call it a dud just because it gave us Freddie me Gibby.
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, it had great moments, but I thought, oh man, we are going to get a 7-game thriller.
Yeah, it was meant to be Titanic.
Yeah,
between
right.
two
Exactly.
iconic franchises, and it was
And
not.
instead,
I
the
understand
Yankees
that.
sort of performed as though they were the Titanic. Am I right? So I like this matchup because it just feels like it is going to be really, really good baseball for 7 games. But that's what I'm cheering for. I guess I'll put it that way. I am pulling for as much baseball as possible. And if we get a game 7 in Toronto, I mean, you can't ask for anything more than that. TV ratings are up to an absurd degree, especially internationally, for Major League Baseball. Like baseball is in, and you and I have been pounding this drum for a decade. Baseball is in such a good era right now. And all we hear is that baseball is dying and here's what's wrong with baseball. And yes, the specter of 2027 and the labor battle is looming and all of that. But when you look at what is going on the field and the talent in Major League Baseball, the fans in Major League Baseball, the personalities in Major League Baseball, there is so much to be just ecstatic about, to be elated about with where this game is right now. And this World Series very much stands up to that standard. And that is, I think, just incredibly, incredibly exciting about this World Series. So I'm cheering for 7 games. I know that. And, I'll be glued to the TV starting on Friday night from the Rogers Center. And when the Toronto Blue Jays take the field for game 1 of the 2025 World Series, they will be led by a former friend of, I don't know, he's a current friend of the show, but a former guest on the show in manager John Schneider. If you have been with the Show Before the Show podcast for a long time, you may recall that we talked to John Schneider on episode 155 of the Show Before the Show. We are, of course, if you are tuned in to this episode, you can look down at your phone or your device right now. This is episode 526. Episode 155, all the way back in 2018, when he was the manager of the AA New Hampshire Fisher Cats. We talked with John Schneider. That was a loaded roster. He is one of the big reasons why I think he has been so successful with this group. He managed Bo Bichette as he was coming up through the minor leagues. He managed Vlad Guerrero Jr. coming up through the minor leagues. He has known these guys for so long. John Schneider knows what he's doing with this group. And it's cool, for you and I to get to look back on the amount of times we talked to him when he was a minor league manager, and now seeing him at this big league level. This is so cool. And to get to go back and listen to this interview is really exciting.
Yeah, I mean, it's close to 2 decades, or I think it maybe exceeds 2 decades in the organization for John Schneider. I was looking up pictures at one point during the
2002, he made his professional debut. He was drafted by the Tigers in 2001, went back to school at the University of Delaware. He was drafted by the Jays in 2002. So he has been in that organization for, coming up on really almost 25 years now.
Yeah. No, it's been insane. And I was looking up pictures and I found a picture of him and Vlad Jr. from Dunedin. Like this goes further than just New Hampshire, right? Like this is exceptional, his rise through the organization. And we wrote plenty of Vlad Jr. stories back in the day. The guy was flirting with 400 for a while there. And John Schneider was always the one we had to call because Vladimir Guerrero Jr., to his credit, we would get him when we could with an interpreter, but his English was not something he wanted to use in an interview over the phone. Totally understandable. So John Schneider had to do a lot of explaining of just how good is this young third base prospect at the time that you have. When
we got the first ever 80 grade hit tool in MLB Pipeline's prospect rankings back when he was coming up through the system. And I remember when he was given that tool, the amount of people that were like, he can't be that good. There's no way this guy is that good. Well, now you see it.
Now you see it. Now you see it on the biggest stage possible. So I remember at the time, hey, let's get John Schneider on the show, talk about with this loaded roster, what he sees from these guys and what their future could be. So we've done this in the past, Tyler. We've dipped into the archives around the postseason just because we've been doing this show for so long. We get guys when they were minor leaguers and now they get to be postseason heroes. But this was an especially good one to dip back into. So here's our chat from way back, episode 155, with then New Hampshire manager and now American League pennant winner, John Schneider.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
And we're joined this week on the Show Before the Show podcast with John Schneider, the manager of the AA New Hampshire Fisher Cats in the Blue Jays organization. John, how's the season treating you so far? You guys are 5 games in, but how's the first week?
So far, so good. We got some really good starting pitching. Bullpen's been fantastic, and I really like the way the lineup's kind of working together. So, kind of really couldn't ask for a better start. 5-0, all the games on the road. So we're looking forward to finishing this road trip and getting home.
Yeah, and you mentioned your record there, 5-0. As far as I can tell, you guys are the only ones who are 5-0 in all of the minor leagues next to Delmarva. You're the only team still undefeated who have played 5 games or more. What is it like to get off to this start? I know, it's all about development. A lot of guys like to talk about, it's not where you begin the season, it's where you end. But what is it like to win this many games this quickly with this young group?
It's really nice. I think that everyone kind of knew this was a team that a lot of people are kind of keeping an eye on, and you gotta, the same could be said with this team last year with the guys that were here, and they got off to a little bit of a slow start. So I think it's nice to kind of get off to this start and kind of get everyone comfortable and get their feet underneath them, and I think it kind of manages some expectations too when everyone's kind of doing their part. So it's definitely, winning and development hand in hand for sure. And it's nice to kind of back up all the work they've been putting in during the day with some victories at night.
Yeah, and what was your message for this club coming into the season? You mentioned how much talent there is here, and a lot of people put them on lists. I know we did as a team to watch for the year with Vlad Guerrero Jr. there, Bo Bichette there, Sean Reed-Foley, Max Pentecost. You go down the roster. What were you telling them before the season, and has this start helped your message or kind of hurt it when you're trying to say maybe don't get your heads too big, stay humble, and then all of a sudden everybody starts out 5-0?
Well, I think, the message that I gave him before the season was definitely manage expectations and control the controllable. Try to come to the field every day and get better a little bit, and kind of do the same thing the next day. So definitely, I think when you get off to a start like this, it just builds confidence. I don't think, with personalities that are on this team, both on the pitching side and the offensive side, you don't have to worry about managing egos or anything like that. They're going to continue to do things the right way, and I think it's just it's fun to see them, kind of feed off each other. 1 through 9 in the lineup, and then the first 5 starters, the way that they're kind of quietly competing with one another and trying to kind of pick up where the next guy left off is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you mentioned a lot of the guys who are on this team were with you last year in Dunedin. That team ended up winning an FSL co-championship. I know the co-championship's not exactly like a full championship, but what did that do, ending the year on that note, do for some of these guys to kind of carry that into the offseason and then carry forth into the beginning, week, months to come? here in 2018?
Well, I think whenever you're playing meaningful games at the end of the season in the minor leagues, it's fantastic for the players. You know, you can't really replicate those situations and anxiety level and all that kind of stuff. So I think, you know, a lot of these guys that were with me down there last year have been through, you know, being that they've been through that, I think kind of just makes it a little bit easier to take this next step to AA. And when they are put in situations, you know, early in the year, middle of the year, they've kind of been there and done that a little bit. So to me, you know, when you talk about, you know, winning and playoff atmosphere in the minor leagues, it's really, really great in terms of development because, you know, it's just something you really can't recreate if you're doing early work or if you're in spring training or whatever it is. It kind of, you really get to see, you know, what you got in terms of a compete factor with the guys. So it's been cool, you know, to have them go through that and then be up here together.
And I want to get into some of those players here in a little bit, but just first, kind of a more personal question. You know, you're making the jump to AA. A lot of people talk about, for the players, the toughest jump you can make is from Class A advanced to AA. But what about for manager? What are some of the new challenges you're finding, you know, with the Fisher Cats? New level, some of the same faces, but what is different about the level from a manager standpoint?
Well, as you move up, you know, the game's going to get a little bit faster, you know, at every level, obviously, and just being prepared, you know, and to me, the biggest thing, especially early, is handling your bullpen correctly and making sure you get guys, you know, in when they need to get in and rest when they need to get rest, so you're not, you know, scrambling here, you know, a week into the season. So it's just kind of guys are a little bit older. They've been doing it a little bit longer. And the game's a little bit faster. That's it for me, really. I think as long as you're prepared, as long as you're in contact with your staff, you know, before, during, and after the game, the game kind of takes care of itself. And as a manager, you kind of sit there and watch it unfold, and then you know that you have, you know, options, and the game kind of just tells you what to do, you know. So far so good, and but I'm looking forward to it, man. It's been a fun couple years, and you know, I'm sure it'll be, you know, a fun challenge for me this year.
Cool. Well, one of the fun challenges you have is dealing with, like we said, one of the most talented rosters in the minors, but two really young guys in Vlad Guerrero Jr. and Bo Bichette in your infield. I want to start with Vlad. I know you talked to one of my colleagues about him last night coming off his 6 RBI game, but these are 2 back-to-back games he's now homered in. He had an absolute moonshot in Hartford over the weekend. I didn't even see it land in the video, and then homered again yesterday in Trenton, 6 RBIs, adding a double as well. You know, last year he did a whole mess of things, showed off one of the best hit tools in the minors, walked more than he struck out. Is power the next thing to jump for him? And what are you guys talking about with him to kind of play more into his power? Obviously the size is there, but is the power still to come, do you think, as the season goes on?
Yeah, I think so. You know, I think that he's still, you know, obviously the raw power is there. You watch him hit BP and he can hit every ball out if he wants to. And I think knowing when to kind of go for it, you know, his first home run at Hartford was the first pitch heater, and the one yesterday was a 1-0 count fastball after a breaking ball. So I think for Vladdy, just understanding how pitchers are going to try to attack him and try to get him out. I've said this so many times, but for anyone really, but especially for a 19-year-old kid, he's so convicted to his approach and then his plan each at bat. And when you talk to him, the adjustments that he can make pitch by pitch are really phenomenal, you know, for a kid his age. So we don't really, you know, talk about power. We don't really talk about mechanics with him. I mean, he can hit, you know, I think he's always going to hit. And we kind of just talk about and let him tell us, you know, how he's approaching each at bat, because guys are coming in to try to specifically get him out, and how he adjusts to that, you know, will be different for him this year.
Yeah, and with him and with Bo, obviously they have so big, like, name recognition at this point. You know, everybody's been reading up on them. Do you feel like Eastern League pitchers, you know, it's a small sample so far, just 5 games, but do you feel like they're attacking them differently than you were seeing last year in the FSL? I know it's a jump up, but after an off season of kind of hype, you know, how do you see other pitchers going after them, knowing that they're in the lineup?
So far, it's been pretty similar. I mean, Hartford, after the first game, they were really careful with Vladdy, and I think that he was a little bit excited at the beginning of the year, and we saw him expand the zone just, maybe a little bit. But I think that they're kind of coming after him, and I think that, the biggest thing is what they're going to see, Bo and Vlad, is that at this level, I think pitchers can use both sides of the plate a little bit more effectively with their fastball. That's going to be an adjustment to make, but they've been kind of coming right after him. I mean, Vladdy got intentionally walked yesterday to load the bases, but if you look at the lineup of the way it is now, I think, after Vladdy, you got Gurriel. After him, you got Pentecost. You got Biggio, and it kind of goes on down the road. So it's good. It's good for these guys to kind of understand that it doesn't have to be them every at bat. They can kind of pass the baton, and it's been kind of as we expected.
Yeah, for sure. And with Bo Bichette, he started out 0 for 4 in that first game, and then has multiple hits in every game after that. I talked to him down in the spring. He, seemed ready to go, ready to improve on a year in which he won a minor league batting title last year. But what have you seen about him that's able to make adjustments, not only game by game like this, but making the adjustments from, the FSL to the Eastern League? He says he doesn't really change his stance too much. Nobody's ever really tried to change his violent swing, but what allows him to handle each level as well as he has?
Well, for one, Bo, if you look at his swing and his setup, it is a little bit unorthodox sometimes. People say that, but he's so aware of what his body's doing in space and what he needs to do in order to get into position to hit. So he's been he wants to beat you so bad every day. He's like a fierce competitor. So it's really kind of business as usual for him. And you can kind of say that about both him and Vladdy, where they're just so convicted into what they're doing and they've had success with it. You really don't have to do much in order to kind of, get them or keep them on the right track, if that makes sense. They're convicted with what they're doing. They know it works for them, and we're kind of here to nudge them back on track if they happen to do get off.
Yeah, and both of those guys feature in that infield, and it's one of the most exciting infields. Not just them alone, but you guys also have Lourdes Gurriel Jr. and Gavin Biggio, and I know you're playing a little bit with that. I think Gurriel got some time at short the other day. Biggio got some time at first. How is that infield rotation kind of working itself out, and what kind of plan do you have or the Blue Jays have to make all these guys get both at bats and time in the infield?
Well, I think you look at those four guys, Bo, Vlad, Gurry, and Bish, and they're going to be the main four that are in there. I think Bo and Gurriel will bounce a little bit between the middle, with a little bit more at short for Bo and more at second for Gurriel. And first base is something new that's for Biggio this year, but he's taken to it quite well. He's also going to play some third base, so Bish will be kind of all over the infield. You can count on Vladdy at third base exclusively, and it's just you mix in a DH here and there, and you go. I think it works out well for Biggio really because he can slide all over the infield, so it kind of keeps him in there pretty regularly as well. But that's the plan, just trying to keep it a little bit consistent for Bo, Vlad, and Gurry, and Biggio's doing a little bit of everything.
Cool, and you mentioned Bo maybe getting some time at second. I know he did a little bit of that last year, but you also, just so I get this straight, you said Vladdy's going to be at third base exclusively, so there's no plan to maybe get him some time at first or anything like that. It's only at the hot corner?
Nope. Yep. Yeah, nothing new for now. He'll be at third base, yeah.
Cool. And one other guy I want to talk about was Max Pentecost. I think he's played 2 games for you so far. He's coming off so many shoulder injuries in the past, but this is the first time he's getting Double-A. Trying to get him more time at catcher. What are you guys kind of planning with him? What's the rotation kind of looking like for him as the weeks come into the season?
As the season continues to progress, so will his games. I think we're taking it slow and cautious with him right now, where it's kind of game on, game off. Mix in a couple DHs here and there when we get home. But for right now, it's kind of a slow build-up, and he did an outstanding job in spring training, getting himself ready to kind of do this. But we're really looking forward when the season's up, shooting for, somewhere around 80 games behind the plate, which would be 60 more than what he caught last year. So he's difference maker both sides of the ball. And I think once the season really gets rolling into May, you can really look for him to be really consistent, both offensively and defensively. So I think right now it's still kind of, feel out process for him, and maybe tough to get a little bit of consistency at the plate or behind the plate when you're not in there exactly every day. So I think really once we get rolling, he'll be right in the thick of all this too.
And just to ask about one pitcher on the other side of the ball, Sean Reed Foley on Sunday threw 6 1-hit innings, striking out 7, walking 3. A really strong season debut for him, obviously, but he's coming off a really tough 2017 in which he had a 5.09 ERA. What are you guys kind of working on? What did he show you in that first start that's allowed him to get off on such a strong foot, and how much do you think he can kind of carry that going forward deeper into April?
Well, we kind of saw the Foley, that we all know and expect, really. We're keeping it very simple with him. He's a young kid and he's a talented kid, and things that we're stressing with him, staying over the baseball, pitching in safe zones, and make good misses when you have good misses when you do miss. So that's it, really. He worked on that really hard in spring training, and he'd be the first one to tell you it didn't go well or didn't go great. He had some success, but definitely room for improvement. So he was thrilled to kind of get through that first start the way he did, as were we for him. So that's it, those 3 things. Safe zones, stay over the ball, and just trust your stuff. So if he could bottle that up, man, he's exciting, or as exciting as anyone we got. So hopefully just, step in the right direction for him.
And one other guy on the pitching side, Jordan Romano, my colleague Kelsey Hennigan thought he could be a breakout guy this year. Pitched with you guys in Dunedin exclusively last year. What kind of work did he show you guys last year that you think can translate really well to AA and against AA hitters?
Well, for one, he's got the stuff. He's got the fastball slider, and what really improved towards the end of last year and into the spring training this year was his changeup, being more confident in throwing it, to both righties and lefties. And when he's got that going, he's got all 3. He can hump up when he needs to with his fastball and slider, but when he can throw a changeup in there, I think that's what's going to, help separate him, get to the order, 3 times instead of 2, something like that. So he's got everything he needs. Now it's just a matter of throwing that pitch consistently, and he should be just fine.
All right, well, we'll leave you on this one. Kind of looking at the overall picture of the Toronto system right now. You played in the system before. You've managed going back to 2009, GCL, Vancouver, Lansing, Dunedin, basically every level of the lower minors. How does this system compare now to where it was in the years past that you've been in it? It seems as exciting as I've seen in a number of years, but from where you sit, how does this compare to some of the other versions of the Blue Jays system?
I think the coolest thing, that's a great question. I think the coolest thing right now is we're really bridging the gap towards the big leagues with the talent that we have in the system. I think the last couple of years have been really, really good drafts, both baseball players and, just kind of competitors as a whole. So if you look a couple of years ago when we were young and we were, a few years away, and now all of a sudden, we got some pretty good guys here in AA, some pretty good guys in AAA that are knocking on the door. And it makes it, when you look at it as a whole, it makes the whole thing a little bit more sustainable, a little bit more realistic when these guys are kind of not in the rearview mirror saying, "Oh, well, wait till this guy comes." They've done a good job of working and developing themselves to kind of get pretty close. So to me, that's the exciting thing. You still have a good core group in the big leagues, and you got another good core group coming up, and there's still some really good young kids too down at the lower level. So when you look at that, it definitely makes for an exciting time, I think, here, and hopefully we can kind of keep it rolling. Yeah,
and just one more just to piggyback off that. How do you keep guys kind of humble at AA? Because we've seen guys get called up from AA, not necessarily in Toronto, but like all over the place. How do you kind of keep them from keeping half an eye on the major league situation, saying, "Oh, so and so's injured, it's my time now"?
Well, I think that's going to be natural a little bit once you kind of get here. They all know that it gets more realistic. Some may be farther off than others, but, I think that you don't really have to manage those expectations until you see that they happen to be a problem. Everyone obviously really wants to play in the big leagues. We've got a couple guys on the team that have spent a good amount of years in the big leagues, so that helps with the guys that haven't been there. You look at Nick Tepish and Craig Reslow that are here right now, and they can kind of help, manage those expectations and those emotions for some guys. So I really don't, I want the guys to move up. I want the guys to want to get called up from here, So until it really looks like a problem, we don't really, we kind of don't really worry about that. that's the ultimate goal. And if that's, what they're thinking to get there, then I'm all for it.
Very cool. Well, John Schneider, thanks so much for joining this week on the Mill podcast. Good luck the rest of the way. We'll see how long you guys can keep this winning streak going.
Great. Thanks, Sam. I appreciate it.
Eczema is unpredictable, but you can flare less with Ebglyss, a once-monthly treatment for moderate to severe eczema. After an initial 4-month or longer dosing phase, about 4 in 10 people taking Ebglyss achieved itch relief and clear or almost clear skin at 16 weeks. And most of those people maintain skin that's still more clear at 1 year with monthly dosing.
Ebglyss, lebrikizumab LBKZ, a 250 milligram per 2 milliliter injection, is a prescription medicine used to treat adults and children 12 years of age and older who weigh at least 88 pounds or 40 kilograms with moderate to severe eczema, also called atopic dermatitis, that is not well controlled with prescription therapies used on the skin or topicals, or who cannot use topical therapies. Ebglyss can be used with or without topical corticosteroids. Don't use if you're allergic to Ebglyss. Allergic reactions can occur that can be severe. Eye problems can occur. Tell your doctor if you have new or worsening eye problems. You should not receive a live vaccine when treated with Ebglyss. Before starting Ebglyss, tell your doctor if you have a parasitic infection.
Ask your doctor about Ebglyss and visit ebglyss.lilly.com or call 1-800-LILY-RX or 1-800-545-5979.
Well, huge thanks 7 years ago to John Schneider for joining us on the show before the show. How cool, though, man, to be able to look back at those conversations that we had and, what he has always been. What you see of him on TV right now, what you see of him in his press conferences, what you like, he's always been that guy. He's just so genuine, a really great guy. He was always a great guy for us to talk to. He was always responsive and conversational and just made you feel like you were part of the journey with those guys as they climb toward the big leagues, and really, really happy for somebody like John Schneider to be having the success that he's having. And good luck to the Los Angeles Dodgers and the Toronto Blue Jays, who will kick off that 2025 World Series coming up on Friday night in Toronto. Okay, so we talked about and to one manager, which segues us into a storyline that doesn't really have to do with what we generally discuss on this show, but is so interesting and is kind of a crossover of the stages of baseball before and after this show that I feel like we have to discuss it. The San Francisco Giants have made one of the most interesting managerial hires, I think, of our lifetimes. They have hired Tony Vitello, the now former head coach of the Tennessee Volunteers, a national championship winning head coach, a guy beloved by his players, by the college baseball community, who's had a ton of success in the SEC, has built a legendary career at that level, but has never worked in professional baseball. A 47-year-old who will be the first manager ever to jump from college into the big league ranks and take over a major league roster and a major league franchise, at least on the field. This is fascinating, man. We see this, obviously, Sammy, in every other sport. The NHL, the NBA, the NFL, you'll hire a coach from college. That's not necessarily a surprise to anybody. We have never seen this before in Major League Baseball. Now, that being said, there are coaches, there are managers, there are a lot of people who have gone from the college ranks to the professional ranks and have been at one time in their careers in the pro ball ranks beforehand. Pat Murphy comes to mind. Pat Murphy, the longtime Arizona State manager, who, of course, was a manager with the San Diego Padres in 2015 and with the Brewers from 2024 through this season, a guy who very likely is going to be the National League Manager of the Year this year. But we've never seen this before. And I was texting with a buddy yesterday who works for the San Francisco Giants. I said, I really like this hire. He said, I really have no idea what to think of it. And I think that's how most people in baseball feel about this right now. Give us your thoughts, Sam.
Yeah, I think if this was going to happen, Tony Vitello was going to be the guy. I think he's the most famous head coach in college baseball right now because of the success of Tennessee, because of just his own vibrant personality. He's somebody who's been on MLB draft coverage for MLB Network the last few years. For a while there was kind of a carousel of they would try to get a college coach on because they can talk about the college side, or they can talk about the high school side as well because they're so involved in recruiting, until they landed on Tony. And Tony just brought, this deep well of knowledge from both sides of, guys from the SEC, guys from college baseball, his own guys at Tennessee, again, high school players that he had recruited or tried to recruit. And hearing from players who played for him at Tennessee, they loved playing for that guy. Now, it's a completely different atmosphere, right? I feel like college baseball is much more rah-rah. It's about inspiring people. It's all that kind of stuff. Pro baseball managing is dealing with different personalities, people coming from multiple different backgrounds, people coming from multiple different skill sets, trying to harness that into one cohesive unit, and also working with a front office, right? You go from college baseball, the head coach, for all intents and purposes, is essentially the GM. That's one thing Tony Vitello has talked about, is it's a difficult life as a college baseball coach because you are on the road, not only with your team a lot, but just in general. The amount of hotels he's had to stay in on recruiting trips, hoping to get one player, right? Or like you go to these showcase circuits. I've seen him in Cary, North Carolina before, rubbing elbows with scouts. And you're just on the road all the time trying to add to your roster and build it in a certain way. Now you are the major league manager. You're working with Buster Posey, which this would not happen if those two guys didn't have some sort of working relationship. There was a report out there that the two of them had met at a major league game. I'm sure they probably crossed paths before, but they were seen at a major league game talking. Seems like they built up a really good rapport. I would not be surprised if they share the same view of how modern baseball can work. That's why he's getting hired here, right? But it's a different atmosphere. You are not making all the calls. He will have a voice in the room, I'm sure, and I'm sure that's something they discussed. But it's a different thing now. You have to deal with, go back to the Bill Parcells quote that I always think about in my head. Like you're trying to make the meal without having bought the groceries. This is going to be that. Tony Vitello is not going to have necessarily a say in who the Giants go out and get. He might try to push them towards certain targets. We're hearing lots of stuff, right, about his relationship with Max Scherzer. When Max Scherzer goes sign with the Giants, give it one more year after this run with the Blue Jays to play with one of his best friends in the world. Be interesting. With
Especially
Tennessee
if they bring
guys,
back Justin Verlander. Like
put those guys back in rotation. Let's pretend it's 2000.
Yeah,
right. Would guys from Tennessee be willing to go play for him? I don't think many of them are free agents just yet. But is that going to be another recruiting tool? Does his background as a recruiter help them with free agents? Right. He's going to know to go in those rooms and selling a 17-year-old, a 16-year-old, even an 18-year-old on your program is much different than a 27-year-old, 28-year-old. But he has that background. Is that going to be advantageous? There's just so many unknowns because we don't have this. I threw out the Pat Murphy comp as well on Blue Sky when this was when the rumor mill was initially spinning.
Yeah,
on Tony Vitello, and I got some pushback, and that's fair. People were saying, well, Pat Murphy worked as a minor league manager and then worked as a bench coach and did all these other jobs before he finally got his opportunity. Right. Tony Vitello has not done that. And that is a totally fair critique. But I think it helps to have somebody who's seen both sides of the coin.
And not only that, but I have to push back on the idea that Tony Vitello hasn't worked hard. He hasn't earned it.
I don't think that's what people were saying necessarily.
Yeah.
I don't think it was that. It was just that.
But I think there is a subset of people, and I think it might be, more of an old school baseball thought process, but people who are out there thinking this guy hasn't been through the grind of professional baseball, he doesn't deserve the job. Well, what about we went through a rash of hirings for a while where it was just teams would look at oh, this guy played for us at one time, let's give him the job. He doesn't have any coaching or managerial experience. Why would somebody like Tony Vitello not deserve a look like this when it's just, and granted, he's a former catcher and all the things that go along with that, but Kurt Suzuki just gets hired by the Angels. They're looking at Albert Pujols, and I know Pujols has some coaching experience and all of that. He's done some stuff with the Dominican team and yada, yada, but Kurt Suzuki gets hired. These are sort of two sides of a similar coin in that they're coming at it from very different, I guess, sort of non-traditional pathways to get to those positions. I don't know. If I'm a Giants fan, I think I'm more excited about the idea of a young guy who seems to be in lockstep with Buster Posey and how they want to define and organize this baseball operations side. I'm excited about that. I don't know if I'm as excited if the Giants just had gone out and hired a player who had been with them in 2018, who doesn't have any experience, but is a name and has some recognition and all of that. I don't know if that moves the needle as much as this is a risk. Granted, this is a big risk. This is a gamble, but I think it's exciting. And why not do something that's exciting and is going to rejuvenate things, especially when you go from somebody like Bob Melvin to somebody like Tony Vitello. This is a completely different world. Now, what the Giants are going to be looking like and feeling like going into 2026. I don't know if it'll work, but I think it's exciting that they're trying something different.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I want to highlight here too is Buster Posey literally has a college baseball award named after him.
Right,
this is somebody with strong ties to college baseball. So him being willing to, turn over the apple cart in terms of this search doesn't shock me that it's that organization to do it under his supervision. But yeah, I mean, we've seen in other sports, right, this go up in flames, like Rick Pitino, John Calipari,
Nick Saban.
Don't look up there. Nick Saban, right? Like these legends of the college game, and going the other way right now with Bill Belichick, they are two different worlds. You think like, oh, the sport is the same and it's the same white lines and it's the same diamond and it's the same 60 feet, 6 inches. And that's true. But they're just all the nuances that are going to be completely different. Again, I think Tony Vitello is the guy to do it out of anybody in the college game right now. I think they're getting him at the right, say the right time of life is a little weird, but he is on the younger side for manager. This is not somebody who's going to be set in his ways. I think we're waiting for that opening press conference. I would not be surprised if he's open for the challenge of this. And that's how he sees it, is like, this is a new challenge. And he's conquered basically every challenge so far, both in his assistant college career and now as a full-blown head coach. So we'll see. I'm excited to see how it goes. Is it going to develop copycats? I don't know, because I don't know who the next manager to do that would be. Like Tim Corbin with Vanderbilt, but he's on the older side, and I don't know who you'd go after. So
yeah,
we'll see if this sets a precedent or if it's a one of one. And either way, it's an exciting precipice of something.
I think that is all going to depend on how it goes. And, if the Giants come into 2026 and can make a run and find their way into the postseason, win the National League West, do something really impressive, then I think you are going to see a lot of franchises look at, okay, maybe that's the road that we choose to go down. If this is something that doesn't work out, then maybe this is a thing where we look back in 5 years and it's like, remember the time the Giants hired a college head coach that didn't work out? So it'll be interesting. We'll see how it goes in 2026, but really interesting stuff. There is a similarly interesting but also not exactly connected story to minor league baseball right now that I also just want to point out before we move on to a conversation that Sam had this week in the Arizona Fall League. It's about a player that we have discussed on this show before, but he has yet to play a minor league baseball game. That is Stanford Cardinal first baseman Rintaro Sasaki, who of course has played in the MLB Draft League. He was a member of the Trenton Thunder a couple of seasons ago. Rintaro Sasaki has been drafted in Japan. The Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks won the negotiation rights to the Stanford Slugger as their first pick in the Nippon Professional Baseball Draft on Thursday. So technically today, even though it was yesterday in Japan. What is interesting about this, the Hawks were in a two-way lottery with the Yokohama DNA Baystars for the draft rights to Sasaki. He enrolled at Stanford last year, skipped the NPB draft in the fall of 2023, which has essentially never happened before. Decided that he was going to go the college route in the United States and try to make it to the big leagues over here. We have not seen that, especially from as highly touted a prospect as Rintaro Sasaki. What makes this so interesting is no one really knows what it means. Rintaro Sasaki, in his first season with Stanford in 2025, 52 games, hit 269 with a 790 OPS, 7 home runs. He drove in 41. Pretty good numbers for your debut college season. He played on the Cape, 10 games for the Cotulla Kettleers this season. Didn't put up great numbers, but really limited sample size there. But we don't really know what this means for him. If he does decide to sign back in Japan with the Hawks, that would be a shocker. If he doesn't decide, then the Hawks basically just gave up a first-round pick. They will get nothing in compensation for this. So this is really weird. But he is a prospect unlike anyone we've ever seen before. And now an NPB franchise, I think, kind of trying to wrest him back into the domestic baseball scene is really interesting. So it's really more just a footnote, a news item. We're not going to have any analysis of this, but something to keep an eye on if you're a prospect fan, a baseball fan, a college baseball fan. Interesting storyline from Japan, and as it impacts one of the bright young stars in collegiate baseball in the U.S. And so with that, Sam Dykstra is at the Arizona Fall League, as we have noted, and Sam's got a conversation coming up from this week's wheelings and dealings around the AFL.
Yeah, just before we send it to that, I'll just point out some quick AFL standouts, because I feel like if I'm going to say anything from the Arizona Fall League, I have to say something about Esmeralyn Valdez, who is putting together one of the most dominant AFL seasons that I have ever witnessed, that I have ever covered. And I've been covering the Arizona Fall League since 2012. I've been coming down here since 2021, covered it from afar for MLB.com before that, now being on site for a couple of weeks each year for MLB Pipeline. Valdez right now has hit 8 home runs, Tyler, through roughly 2.5 weeks in the AFL. Nobody else has more than 3. He is lapping the competition right now in terms of home runs. And he's batting .519, which is the top mark in the Arizona Fall League, as you'd imagine. His slugging percentage, this is his slugging percentage, I want to underline that, is 1.444. His OPS begins with a 2. It is 2.126.
Pretty good.
Pretty good. And not only is he just like slugging the heck out of the ball, he leads the league in extra base hits with 9. That's only 1 above his home run total, because every extra base hit he's gotten, except for 1, is left the building. He also leads the AFL in walks with 15. This is a guy who is not expanding the zone whatsoever. He's not exactly something, he's like swinging wildly, and the pitchers are just not able to miss his barrel. They are trying to work around him. And when he gets his pitch, it goes a long way. I was talking to Charlie Condon alongside Baseball America's Jesus Cano yesterday, and Jesus asked this question about Esmeralyn Valdez to Condon. Just what have you seen? Because they are both on the Salt River Raptors together. And Condon took a step back. This is a guy who won Golden Spikes Award at Georgia, was the number 3 overall pick in the 2024 draft. And he is absolutely astonished by what Valdez is doing and what he can take away from him, and how he is always on his pitch. He's looking for a certain pitch. When he gets it, he gets the green light and he fires. And the exit velocities have been exceptional for him as well. They haven't been to the level of Tony Blanco Jr., who's another Pittsburgh Pirates player who's down here, who's hit the ball 120 miles an hour, which is the second hardest hit ball in all of StatCast this year between the majors, AAA, Florida State League, and the Arizona Fall League. Only O'Neill Cruz has hit a ball harder than Tony Blanco Jr. Pretty good time for the Pirates, to be honest with you, to have both of those guys in the system, especially when there's been so much focus on the arms. The fact that they have Connor Griffin, the number 1 overall prospect, and now they have the guy who, in his Merlin Valdez, as we sit here right now, he is 6 short of the Arizona Fall League record with 3.5 weeks to play. The record is 14, set by Brandon Wood. So I think it was our Jesse Borick who told Esmeralyn Valdez about the record, and Valdez was like, "Oh, that's it." And the Arizona Fall League, Brandon Wood, when he hit 14, I think he played it in 29 games. So this isn't perfect, but the Arizona Fall League used to be much, much, much longer than 6 weeks. It was essentially a second season out here in the desert. So the fact that nobody has hit more than 14 and Valdez is on pace to shatter that record. We'll see how these next few weeks go. Maybe he's intentionally walked every game, right? Maybe he gets the Cal Raleigh treatment and is intentionally walked with the bases empty, because pitchers just don't want to deal with it. We'll see. But it's just been an absolute phenomenal show. Some other standouts that I just want to point out real quick. I mentioned Tony Blanco Jr. and the fact that he's hit the ball as hard as he has, and he's hit the longest home run down here as well. The bat is a question mark for me. I don't think he has a great approach. I think he's just swinging hard all the time. But he's huge at 6'7", probably upwards of 270, 280 pounds, but he's got some serious thump. Walker Yannick, who I interviewed for the MLB Pipeline podcast, our sister show, so go listen to that interview. Houston Astros prospect, really good defender, especially with the arm, more so the arm than the framing side of things. But he's put on a power show here. He's second in the league in RBIs with 17. He's got 3 home runs as well, so he's tied in second place there. At Seaver King with the Washington Nationals, who was their first-round pick in 2024 out of Wake Forest. You've seen so many first-round picks out of the 2024 draft make the major leagues already. You know, Cam Smith, Nick Kurtz being the optimal example there, Jack Caglione, Chase Burns, Peyton Tolley, who wasn't even in the first round, Trey Savage, obviously with the Blue Jays. Seaver King is well behind those other guys, but looks a lot like the college version of himself so far here in the desert, hitting balls to the gaps, not necessarily turning on them to the pull side, but getting the ball in play, hitting it hard. And it's been a tremendous turnaround for him after he had a difficult year at high A and double A, 2 very pitcher-friendly ballparks in Wilmington and Harrisburg. But he's doing everything in the right place. And then Kevin McGonigal is here. He's the number 2 overall prospect in baseball. For me, I don't want to say he's overly fatigued because he hasn't said that on the record. And he's here to make up for lost games. He dealt with a right ankle sprain at the beginning of the year. I believe he played 88 total games this year between high A, double A, and a little bit of time at single A. But he hasn't quite lived up to the expectations. I think a lot of people thought, like, oh, Jose Briseño won the Triple Crown last year as a Tiger. Kevin McGonigal could do that again. He isn't quite there. He hit his first home run yesterday. I think the biggest focus for him here in Arizona is on the defensive side, because by his own admission, he didn't have a great year defensively at shortstop. And he's somebody who takes pride in trying to stick there as much as he can. I see him as a future second baseman. He also has some time at third, but he's been working with Alan Trammell, obviously Baseball Hall of Famer, Alan Trammell, and a legend for the Tigers organization on infield work, also a legendary shortstop in his own right. And, you know, he said it's great to work with Tram. It's great to have him around. It's great that he's here. So we'll see how things trend for him. I think he's more likely going to compete for the second base job out of spring training. He's not going to win it here in Arizona. That's not the point. But maybe he heats up really big time here in the second half, which begins next Tuesday. So that's kind of the catch up on the Arizona Fall League. There have been some bigger pitchers. I really like Luis De Leon in the Orioles system. Read my story up on him in terms of the way he's really gained more momentum in the last few weeks, heading into the AFL and then carrying that here to the Fall League. Rhett Lauder, who's a top 100 prospect, is just trying to make up for lost innings after basically a lost year for the Cincinnati Reds. Hagen Smith is still trying to figure things out. Had a good outing when I saw him with a couple scoreless innings, but the fastball everybody seems to be really on, and he's really trying to focus on the slider, which can get some swing and miss. I don't think he's quite turned around his reputation after a spotty first full year, but again, it's still early. I want to pivot now to my interview with athletics prospect Joshua Kuroda-Grauer, who was a draft pick from the 2024 draft as well, taken out of Rutgers, which is fascinating, just because I don't think we think of Rutgers as a big-time college program. When we get into that a little bit in terms of, you know, what
Pat Kivlahan, baby. Remember Pat Kivlahan? The Mariners.
I do remember Pat
He's the guy who I always remember, like, oh, yeah, Rutgers guy.
Yeah, I mean, he did really, really well at Rutgers. And we talk about this as well. I mean, as a junior, he batted .428. And I believe he was the Big Ten Player of the Year. And that helped him go in the third round to the Athletics in 2024. It's an exceptional hit tool. This year, he split his season between high A and double A, high A being Lansing, double A being Midland, hit .296, played 121 games. So he's not somebody making up for lost at-bats here. He only struck out 49 times against 40 walks, but he only had 2 homers. So he's your typical, going to get the ball in play, a ton, which is an interesting organization to be in, right? Like Jacob Wilson, another shortstop prospect, Kuroda-Grauer plays shortstop, is the model of that right now, right? Like especially in that organization, but among young players, of just get the ball and play as best you can. Sometimes that becomes a little swing happy. What is the power going to be for Wilson? What is the power going to be for Kuroda-Grauer? So we asked him about that. But we start this interview, and one other thing I want to shout out here real quick, because I asked him a question about this, but I want to make sure we actually get the name in here as well. Ryan Lasko was somebody who was taken by the A's in the second round of 2023 out of Rutgers. So there are multiple Rutgers players in the A's organization, and Ryan Lasko is also here in the Arizona Fall League. So is there something there? Is there not something there? You'll hear the answer here in a bit. But one thing I started out with this interview is that Kuroda-Grauer is a shortstop. He's got some other time on the dirt, moving around a little bit. But the day before I interviewed him, he came in as a late game replacement in right field. And I thought that was interesting. So that's how we start this interview, is talking about his defensive capabilities. Is he moving to right field? Is that something that was scheduled? Is that an emergency? You'll find out here in my conversation with Joshua Kuroda-Grauer. One thing I want to start with, though, is you got in some time in right field yesterday. How much is that part of the plan? Was that like an emergency? I know it was like a late game replacement, but that's the first time you played right since, I want to say, Newport.
Yeah, it's been a while. I was one of the backups. We're a little down when a couple guys banged up and in the outfield, but just ready to go, help the team however.
Is that something that you could still do, or is that just like...
Absolutely. I mean, I definitely think of myself as a shortstop, infielder first, but whatever the team needs, I think I'm athletic enough to go out in the outfield and play a good position.
Did the A's tell you, like, bring an outfield glove? Or
No, nothing. That was just like, who on the bench can go out there and play right the best? I said I could probably do it, so that was more so that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and when you had conversations with the A's about coming here, what were the goals or the benchmarks they kind of were given for you to do
I think the goals more so just offensively. I'm trying to do a little bit more damage to the pull side, just getting those at bats and being able to work on the live. But as far as the infield goes, I think I'm a shortstop first, but this past year being able to play second, third, just trying to make my mark wherever they put me in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you talk about trying to do more damage to the pull side. How do you work on that? What are some of the drills you're working on today?
Yeah, I think it's just some angle flips, angle BP in the cages, and just intent. I think I'm pretty good going the other way, line drive, staying low to the right side, but just having that intent. If I get in a plus count, let's do some damage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this being your first full season, what were your biggest takeaways about playing a full summer?
Yeah, I thought it was long, for sure. There were definitely some dog days, but I think you really just got to fall in love with the grind. Like, you got to find ways to show up every day and just give your best, because you're not going to go 5 for 5 every day. You're going to have a lot of offers mixed in there, but just trying to be consistent with your work, with your preparation, just enjoy it, just have fun. I had a lot of fun this past year.
Yeah, have there been any adjustments you've had to make just to stay healthy, because you're not playing Friday, Saturday, Sunday anymore? It's Tuesday to Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. Just making sure I'm getting my active warm-up in, make sure I'm lifting good, pushing some good weight in this season, just to keep up with my weight and just to keep my body feeling good. I think the weight room's been big, but doing some treatment with our trainers, they've been good. Just like I said, just being consistent in that area too.
Yeah, and you've always had innate bat-to-ball skills, or at least going back to college. How did those develop? Because it's so easy to say, I'm not going to strike out, but you do it exceptionally well putting the ball in play.
I think that's just a God-given ability almost. Honestly, I really don't like doing drill works or anything. I think I have pretty good hand-eye coordination, and I just that thought process of, hey man, this pitcher on him, he's not about to strike me out. Mm-hmm. So just kind of that competitive nature too. So, but it's just always been something I've had.
Yeah, was that something, in high school a lot of guys are like that, but then you make the adjustment to college. When did you realize that was still going to work there and you could just put the ball in play even against Big Ten arms?
Yeah, I think my freshman, sophomore year I did okay, and I think going to my junior year, our infield coach became the assistant hitting coach, so working with him, Michael Garza, he's awesome. Me and him are real close, even to this day, so I talk to him all the time, and just his ability to tell me just stay inside the ball and just hunt the fastball. That's really all I've done.
Yeah, you went to Rutgers, you're a New Jersey guy. What was that transition like, going from high school ball? Not a lot of people know they might know Mag Trout, right? But they don't know a ton about New Jersey ball, and then you're transitioning to a T1 program.
Yeah, it was different. Coming from Franklin High School, I wasn't really a big sports high school. We had some really good athletes come from Franklin, but just facility-wise and just, like you said, being from Jersey, having a ton of games in the season get canceled just for rain, snow, whatever you want to call it.
Working out in the gym.
Working out in the gym, exactly. But getting to colleges, having those facilities at Rutgers was awesome to me, eye-opening, and I just try to take advantage of them.
How many offers did you have out of high school?
I didn't really have a lot. I mean, Rutgers was probably my only Division I offer, and, just being close to home, and Coach Owens was there. He was a driving factor of why I decided to go there. So just knowing I was going to get that coaching experience from a guy like that with over 1,000 collegiate wins was just awesome.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what about him specifically did you gravitate towards?
Yeah, just that kind of hard nose, just coaching old school almost, if you want to call it that. But just a guy that knows baseball, that's been around, that's got a lot of guys from college level to play professional. And he told me as soon as I came here, he said, I'm going to get you where you want to go. And he did that.
So was that your goal, was to get drafted going into school? Was that something you guys were having from the first day?
Absolutely.
And how were you a different hitter then from that first conversation to where you were by the end? I mean, hitting 428 like you did, that'll help. But
I think my body type, just getting bigger, stronger. Ken Panini, he was our strength coach coming in my sophomore year, and he's been awesome. I work out with them in the off season still, just getting my body right, being able to play 56 games at a time. Now carrying that over to 130 something, whatever it is in the minors. But just hitting. Coach Gars, he always told me just try to find hits. He was like, you could be a top 5 round draft pick, getting however many hits you want. You don't have to try to do damage in this spot, and just try to play team ball. Just try to win.
And when you're batting 420 plus like you were as a junior, how much are you paying attention to the average? Because that's an insane average for any level.
I try, when I'm in season, I try to never look at the scoreboard. I try to never look. Obviously, someone might tell you what you're hitting, and you might peek up there once in there, but I try my best to not look at it as much as possible.
When do you feel like you were first getting draft interest? Was it in the Cape, or was it even before that?
It was definitely in the Cape, probably after my sophomore year, but it didn't really get the buzz until my junior year when I started playing well, hitting the ball well. But like I said, it's another thing that I tried to put to the back burner, try to not think about a lot, and just try to play the game.
Do you feel like the A's were one of those teams that were interested early? Or?
I honestly had no idea who was
I guess if you're not trying to pay attention,
who was
right.
really interested, but I'm glad they did, and I love the spot I'm in.
Yeah, I mean, you look at this organization, Jacob Wilson stands out, right? Like another innate bat-to-ball skills guy. How much do you talk to him or model yourself after him, or trying to follow that path?
I got to meet him in spring training. Great guy, and just seeing what he's doing at the big league level kind of gives me just that motivation to go continue this bat-to-ball skills and then work on getting some more pull-side fly balls and just working on myself like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and when you have those bat-to-ball skills and know you can basically touch any pitch type, how much do you balance aggression versus waiting for your pitch, knowing that you can put anything in play?
I think, especially at this level, guys' stuff is getting better and they're going to be able to locate better. I think it's that selective aggression that's going to take me to the next level, because just because I can put the bat on the ball doesn't mean I should. You know what I'm saying?
You're right.
So, yeah.
Is there an A's-Rutgers connection between the two of you guys?
I'm not sure, but me being here, Lasco, Drew Conover, for the last couple of years, it seems about right.
Yeah. And what did you learn just about minor league baseball? Because being a New Jersey guy, you get sent to Stockton, you go to Lansing, you go to Midland, you're bouncing all over Vegas for a time too. What was that like, and just learning about the A's system?
Yeah, that was probably my first time going from place to place, just playing in different cities, just being sent up and all that. Just try to enjoy it. You only get one shot at this. Mm-hmm. So when I was down in Stockton, enjoying all of that. When you get to Lansing, enjoying all that. Ending the year in Midland, just enjoying that, having fun, because you never know if that's going to be your last stop, if you'll be back, just taking it all in.
Yeah, what was the most eye-opening part of the Texas League, or just Double-A in general?
Yeah, I mean, just you hear it all the time. That's like I say, Double-A is the first big test. See if you can play in the big leagues, and just you got good talent all around. It's a lot of clean baseball, and just for me, myself, just that competitive nature, just wanting to go out there and compete, just do the best I can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what was it like being in the A's system this year, just in terms of the young talent getting there, seeing Nick Kurtz, right? Yeah. Seeing Jacob Wilson. They're obviously using a youth movement. How much are you guys talking about like that, even at Double-A or high A?
Oh, we're talking about it all the time. That's motivation for all the young guys in the organization, just to get better at your craft and just to grind, to get to a point where those guys are, seeing that the A's are pushing guys who play well and they want to have a young core once they get to Vegas.
Mm-hmm. And I know we're not there yet, but this is going to be your second offseason. What did you learn from going through the first offseason? Is there any change you're going to have this year? Or
just a little bit more probably lifting a little bit harder, trying to throw some more weight on, just because 130 games is going to take a toll on your body. But just be consistent, working the things the organization wants me to work on, and just keep getting better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is for a minor league show. I know you, like you said, Franklin, New Jersey.
Yeah.
It's 15 minutes from the Somerset Patriots.
No doubt.
How much were you going to games growing up?
Oh, yeah. When they were independent ball league, I used to go to them all the time with my parents, and now them being a AA affiliate for the Yankees, pretty cool.
Yeah, I know you weren't in the Eastern League, but like, what was it like going to independent? Like, were you aware of that as a kid, of what the difference was? Or?
I thought it was minor league ball through and through, so I had no idea. But yeah, they do a great job in Somerset, so it was always cool.
Yeah, and just getting that taste of Vegas last year, I mean, I feel like that was just a reward at the end of a long year for you. But what do you take away from that, and what do you look forward to about potentially going back there next year?
You just want to get there. You know, that's probably a premier spot, and just all of minor league baseball, and just the guys up there, and just knowing that you're one step away from the show. That's the main motivation.
All right, great. That's all I have for you. Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
No doubt.
It's football season, and you can now get almost anything you need for game day delivered with Uber Eats. What do we mean by almost? Well, you can't get a running back delivered, but you can get baby back ribs delivered. A strong defense? No. A strong deodorant? Yes. A six-pack of abs? Nope. Six-pack of beer? Yes. Get almost anything for game day delivered with Uber Eats, official on-demand food delivery partner of the NFL. Order now. Alcohol 21 plus and in select cities. Product availability varies by region. See app for details.
Final segment of this week's episode of the Show Before the Show podcast. It is time for this week's episode of Name That Dude, in which one of us tells you about a dude that we remember from baseball years past, and the other guys have to guess who that dude was. And this week, I am the dude knower, which makes Sam and Ben the dude guessers. And we are going to get this thing rolling with the following dude, who was drafted by the then Cleveland Indians in the 8th round of the 1989 MLB draft from LSU in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. But he's from Ben Hill's neck of the woods. He was born in Homestead, Pennsylvania, just outside of Pittsburgh, correct? The home of the Homestead Grays, the legendary Negro Leagues team, of which Josh Gibson, of course, was a part, and so many other legends. He attended Steel Valley High School in Munhall, Pennsylvania, as well as the Community College of Allegheny County and Gulf Coast State College before going to LSU. Drafted in 1989, made his professional debut in my favorite ballpark in the minor league landscape, and that is Kinston, North Carolina, with the Kinston Indians in 1990. He was back in Kinston in 1991, those stops in the Carolina League. 1992, he made the climb to AA Orlando, a team known as the Sun Rays that was in the Minnesota Twins organization. So he shifted organizations by his second professional season, and then he made the climb to AAA with the Portland Beavers in 1992. 1993, he had changed systems again. Twice, in fact. He was with the Wichita Wranglers in the San Diego Padres system. Then he was with the Colorado Springs Sky Sox in the Colorado Rockies organization during their inaugural season. And he made his big league debut that year with the Rockies. He was back in Colorado Springs and partially in Colorado during the strike-shortened 1994 season. And then in 1995, really his breakthrough campaign with the Colorado Rockies. He was back with Colorado from 96 through 99. Saw a little bit of time in the minors in 96, but then moved on. He was with the Milwaukee Brewers, with the Kansas City Royals, and famously was with Sam Dykstra's Boston Red Sox in 2004. Do we have a guess as of yet? I don't think I've tipped off a position for this guy.
I don't think so.
Sam is.
I had an idea. Now it's gone away from me.
Okay. He was also a member of the Kansas City Royals in 2004 before going to the Boston Red Sox. But he was with the Boston Red Sox.
No.
Okay. He a pitcher. He made a whole bunch of minor league appearances.
Curtis Laskanik?
Curtis Laskanik is the guy. The next clue that I was going to give was he was my introduction as a young baseball fan to how weird relief pitchers are, especially closers. because Curtis Leskanic, I always remember, shaved his forearm because he thought that it helped him throw faster, not having the wind resistance, much like a swimmer. Thinking, well, obviously swimming is a little bit different than throwing a pitch, but removing body hair to glide through the water better. Curtis Leskanic thought, all right, well, that's going to help obviously with pitching as well. Curtis Leskanic was a stud for the 1995 Colorado Rockies. That's what I remember most about Curtis Leskanic. That year, 76 relief appearances. He put up a 3.40 ERA in the pinball machine that was the inaugural season of Coors Field. And just, he was averaging more than a strikeout per inning at a time when that really wasn't the norm. 107 strikeouts to 33 walks in 98 big league innings. In 1995, and an effective major league reliever over the course of 11 seasons in the big league, 603 games pitched. He did make 11 starts, did Curtis Leskanic, but a 4.36 career ERA and just like a lovable goofball. Curtis Leskanic was so much fun. But he did retire following that 2004 season in which he helped the Boston Red Sox capture a World Series title, and recently returned in 2024 to Boston to celebrate the 20th anniversary of that 04 World Series squad. He was a member of the Red Sox scouting staff for a while. I'm not sure if he is still involved with the Red Sox, but man, I loved Curtis Leskanic. He was so much fun.
It's so funny. The reason I was going a different direction, and then you said the 04 Sox, and then it's been a lot of, I don't know why this has come up a lot recently. Maybe it's just the LCS, right? And the fact that, it went to Game 7. But I was getting a lot of 2004 ALCS content in my algorithms recently. And his performance in Game 4 was just mentioned a lot. And I think people forget about that, of like, obviously everybody remembers the Dave Roberts steal, the Bill Miller hit, the Kevin Millar walk before that, David Ortiz walking it off after midnight, Joe Buck saying, "We'll see you later today," stuff like that. But Curtis Leskanic had 1 1/3 scoreless innings between the 11th inning to the end of the game to at least like keep the Sox in it. Yeah. And people think about like Mariano Rivera blowing the save, right? But like the Red Sox had to get to a point where they were still in it through 12. And Curtis Leskanic pitched Game 3. And Game 3 was horrible. I still remember Game 3. They lost 19-8. And I think that game is more famous for Terry Francona saying like Tim Wakefield saved the staff because he threw 3 1/3. But before Tim Wakefield came in, Curtis Leskanic pitched a third of an inning and gave up 3 earned runs. So the fact that he went back to Leskanic for extra innings, knowing that if he blew up again, the season was over, and he came through in that way. And like you said, Tyler, he retired after the 04 season. That was his last game. Yeah. Was Game 4 of the ALCS, in which he kept the Red Sox in it. They didn't pitch him Game 5, Game 6, Game 7, didn't use him in the World Series. I mean, that's a heck of a way to go out. Like, yeah. That's a way to earn your ring, quite literally.
There is a story. There's a story linked on Curtis Leskanic's Wikipedia page, and I don't really want to read the whole story because it's really funny. And I feel as though if you want to read the story, I don't want to rob you of the comedy of it, but Curtis Leskanic's cousin, Katrina Leskanic, whose last name is spelled with an H at the end, which I find interesting. She was lead singer of the band Katrina and the Waves, which is known for the 1985 song Walking on Sunshine. And there is there's a headline from triblive.com. And I'm going to let you just all read the story yourselves if you want to, because the headline is, quote, Leskanic not big fan of cousin's music. The story is hilarious. So I'm going to let anybody read it who wants to read it, because I'll ruin it by reading it out to you. But it is very funny and very worthwhile. Curtis Leskanic, like a legendary baseball dude. I love that guy. One of those guys who, he's not going to the Hall of Fame. He might not even be going to the Hall of Very Good, but like made an impression on young baseball fans like me. Those are some of the glue guys in your baseball fandom. When you think of like the characters that you first learned about in baseball, Curtis Leskanic was one of those guys for me. So wherever you are, Curtis Leskanic or Kurt Leskanic is.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
We keep calling him Curtis, and that's how I remember him.
Yeah,
but
but his baseball reference page is Kurt.
Yeah, I don't know where we're getting the Curtis thing from, but
that was always how he. At least when he played in Denver, he was always Curtis, from what I remembered. I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe we're just being very formal.
We could just be very informal. His nickname also is listed on Baseball Reference as Let's Panic, which is fantastic. Maybe not the best nickname for a relief pitcher, but a relief pitcher with the Colorado Rockies, that's like you could name literally every single relief pitcher in franchise history. You could tag them with the nickname Let's Panic. But Curtis Leskanic, what a guy.
That's a great dude, Tyler, because I thought for a second when you were talking about like Rockies breakout guys and this being World Series week, and maybe it's on my mind because we're hearing Bo Bichette is like getting reps at second base. I was like, is this a Dante Bichette reference? No.
Dante Bichette, who I once said, man, my childhood season tickets were section 155, row 10. I grew up my whole childhood sitting behind you in left field watching you play the outfield. And he goes, oh man, I am so sorry. Oh man. Well, that will do it for this week's episode of the Show Before the Show. Curtis Leskanic, wherever you are, a salute to you as a baseball dude, a baseball glue guy. And for Sam Dykstra, for Benjamin Hill, for all the rest, my name is Tyler Mon. Feel free to get in touch with us, of course, podcast at MILB.com. Send us your World Series thoughts, your predictions, and anything else that you would like to get in touch with us about. And for those guys, I'm Tyler. We'll catch you next week.